Welcome to the Food Startups Podcast, connecting the opaque world of food startups.
Hey guys, this is our 49th episode. We're almost halfway to 100. Now, I have a great guest today. I'm going to go right into it. His name is Dr. Aaron Dossey, and it's another bug guy. But this time, I figured out from our seafood episode, which is C-FU, episode number 45, who are launching their own line of tofu-type bug matter using mealworms, that I love it. I think this is something that I'm passionate about, and I want to keep learning more and more. And a supplier of cricket powder got in touch with me, and they're actually the biggest supplier in the United States for cricket powder. So I've also been interested from my business side in B2B, because that's one of my largest angles, is becoming a great B2B supplier. And I want to find out, what does it take to become the leader in the industry? Because there are some advantages when you are number one. People will come to seek you, and that's an enviable place where you don't have to sell to them, but you kind of attract people to you and they want to buy your products. So I'm going to bring Aaron Dossey in from All Things Bugs right now. Dr. Dossey, tell me about your background and how did you get into starting All Things Bugs?
2010, I started kind of hearing some buzz about this insect-based food stuff. My PhD is in biochemistry, actually, in biomedical science, and that was my career track. I was going to go into drug discovery or molecular biology or protein chemistry or something like that, structural biology maybe. And but then I started hearing about that. I've always been passionate about insects and just like to observe them and take photos of them and occasionally have them as pets and things. And I've had an insect collection for a long time. And so I started talking to some people, Danielle Martin and Dave Gracer, back in 2010 about this. Hey, insects are also a very efficient protein source, and I never thought of it in the terms of efficiency and sustainability. I know that there are millions of species out there, and they're very abundant, but this intrigued me, and that's where I got my PhD in 2006 and did a postdoc at UF for a while, and then a postdoc at the USDA, and I started looking, trying to apply for faculty positions. And part of one of the things you want to do with that is apply for grants. So I was fleshing out what my research topics would be, and it was originally the drug discovery kind of thing, incorporating insects into different aspects of the research, and I started to kind of incorporate insects as food into the type of research that I would want to do. And an opportunity came up in the Gates Foundation. 2011, we got an email from a professor at University of Alabama, Birmingham, Frank Franklin, who's also was interested in this as a nutritionist. He's a nutritionist, and he sent us all this. Several of us in the community, this grant announcement by the Gates Foundation to do something to alleviate malnutrition in children. So I applied for it, and they were and this was the summer of 2011. They were very interested in the project, and they thought it was a fantastic idea and project. I didn't qualify as a postdoc to be PI of the grant. So I can talk about for career prospects from postdocs and PhD scientists is a whole nother topic that I've done some work on. My options were to either hurry up and get a faculty position, that I applied for many of them, or in which they would hold the grant for a little bit for maybe me to qualify that way, or I could be at a company, or I could start a company, and the right kind of company. They were looking for me to be at a place capable of doing the project. So I said, could I found a company? And they said, yeah, you could start a company. So that's what I did. I continued to apply for faculty positions. None of them came through. But in the meantime, I had my company, and they had to roll me over until 2012, and I finally got the funding in 2012. And so I developed my thought by that point was more specific to develop a ready-to-use therapeutic food, and RUTF, high nutrient, long shelf life paste product, similar to the peanut-based ones that are already out there, being used to alleviate malnutrition in children using insects as the sole or the major protein source. So I developed several prototypes of that. And I applied for USDA funding to follow up SBIR Small Business Research Grant to continue that project in phase one of that. So I had phase one Gates and phase one SBIR. But then in phase two of SBIR, which started last fall actually, and I had to apply. You have to apply for phase two, and I got it, which was nice. We were focusing more on the ingredient because all along the way, during the research, it was clear to me that there needed to be innovation improvement on the scalability and the quality and efficiency of the actual ingredient, the processing of the insect to get it into food products. Because once you have a nice powder, you can put it in anything you need to.
Aaron, you became a entrepreneur out of necessity, right? To use this grant money. So you really got into cricket powder now, and you're kind of a, I should say, focused on B2B supply, but you can also buy your cricket powder on the website. So could you take me through, if I buy a pound, which I probably will do when I come back to the US in a month, if I buy a pound of this cricket powder, with water and spices, can I make like a cricket burger like I do with like quinoa flour? Give me some ideas. How can I cook with this?
Sure, yeah. And I mean, I'm not the best chef myself, but I obviously in the research and developing this product. And right now our research is on product development and finding out what it can be used for. So obviously you can bake with it. And we're actually supplying it to several bar and snack food companies in our industry, startups that are in this insect-based food space. Bars and baked goods, you can replace about at least 25% of the flour, if it's a grain flour in a recipe, and it turns out pretty good, depending on the product, obviously. You can use it in smoothies because of the process we use, and because of we make it very high quality in the way we make it. You can use it in a smoothie, and I'm glad you asked about the bug burger and the bug sausage. I've done that. You can reconstitute this stuff in powder and cook it down into it. I've made, my favorite thing is an insect-based taco meat, where I just take the powder, add a bunch of water, cook it down in a pan until it looks like taco meat, add seasoning and onions, and it tastes really good. It has a meat like, I'd say somewhere between pork and chicken kind of aroma and flavor. And of course, the seasonings you add kind of take over the flavor.
So it's kind of like tofu in that it's quite neutral?
Yeah. I mean, when you have it, like anything that has fats and oils and proteins and amino acids that can do Maillard reactions and things, and oxidation, there's an aroma. It's not 100% new, but yeah, it's very similar to ground meat or tofu in that it's not overwhelming. It's just like a cooked food, and it smells like you're cooking some meat, and you add some seasoning, and that's what it's going to taste like.
Aaron, you told me you've had a lot of success B2B, selling to people that have their own brands of cricket bars, et cetera, and was that a deliberate choice, or was it just how things worked out, or both?
Yeah, I mean, kind of more of a deliberate choice, I would say, based on the environment at the time and our capabilities. So in my small apartment in Florida, and at the end of 2013, I was finishing up the Gates project, about halfway through the USDA phase 1. And then I had to make some decisions what I was going to do. Am I going to continue this? Am I not going to continue this? What if I don't get more grant funding? What will sustain it? The obvious thing is you need to make money with it somehow. And really, for it to be feasible to get out of the lab, like anything, has to get out into the real world, into the market, to have any impact in the world and to matter. I had to analyze. This is kind of a trait that I think I have. I look at things kind of analytically and say, okay, where do I have? And where am I going? In research, I do this all the time. Where are we starting? Where do we hope to go? And I started making some bars, and actually one of my friends, I took a road trip with one of my friends, and I made some bars, and I was going to have them analyzed, and he ate the whole bag of them on the road trip. So they must have been pretty good. But yeah. But I thought about that, and I thought, well, Chaput was already way out there. They did their successful Kickstarter. EXO had already done its Kickstarter, and I think they were finished about that in the fall of 2013. And I said, okay, do I want to go head to head with these guys that have who knows how much capital, and I don't know how much money their parents have, and I don't know what resources they have, and I don't know their backgrounds. Like, what am I competing with on that? Would that be a mistake? And I don't have any resources. I just have a small apartment and not even a commercial kitchen or anything that I could afford to rent. So I said, what I do have, and I was patenting my technology, applying for the patent on that at the time. And so I got this process that makes it really good, scalable. I know how it would work in the food industry, this ingredient. And nobody's doing just the ingredient. Everybody's trying to either vertically integrate and do everything themselves, raise the crickets, which is strange in the food industry. But or a lot of people are doing the end product. So I started cold calling people, and I kind of said, well, can I send you samples of the ingredient? And I realized that from a practical point of view, as part of my R&D, I wanted to intentionally develop a process that was scalable, that I could go to contract manufacturers and use. I knew it had to get out of the lab from the very beginning. And so I said, okay, I can do that. I know some contract manufacturers. I've talked to them. I know what it would cost. And actually, one night I was emailing one of the companies, and I asked, can you? And I knew that at the time, which is now defunct, World Entomophagy was the only company out there selling what they call cricket flour, and we prefer cricket powder. It makes a lot more sense, and it's less confusing to people wanting to try to replace the wheat flour in it with baked goods, which wouldn't work out too well, 100% anyway. But anyway, so I finally got one of the little startups to give me the price sheet she got from World Entomophagy. And my back of the envelope calculation at the time, they were supplying at $50 a pound. And I realized that I could have a small profit selling much cheaper. And I knew it was much higher quality, and I knew I could have relationships with farms and could supply at a larger scale. So this is my value proposition. I get higher quality. I can deliver this, and I am a whole lot cheaper than them. Do you want to buy from us? And start a flow. And I got a few customers, so I lined up a production run, and that was the end of 2013. Or actually, we started selling wholesale at the January 2014 were our first orders that we put.
I'm just deducing here on my end. Basically, the way you became the leader in B2B sales of cricket powder was by having far and away the best product at a cheaper price than the competition, correct?
Yeah, basically kind of just guessing and talking to them about what they needed, and offering a good quality at a good price, and the deliverability. This is really critical in our industry. Being able to, people can talk up we don't have millions and millions of pounds, but we have more, and we can make it more at a larger scale faster than anyone, and have more inventory than anyone. So if anyone's going to call up and order 30, 50, 100 pounds, or place an order and then for a next production run for, say, 1,000 or 2,000 pounds, nobody else can really, as far as we know, can kind of deliver at that capacity. So that's very important, especially when part of your value proposition is, hey, you're grinding up crickets in a kitchen right now. How would you like to focus on your product and your marketing, and we'll take care of the ingredients of that. So our being able to deliver comfortably in that is also a value.
So Aaron, 1,000 pounds of cricket powder, how many bars could that make? Just give me a rough guess here. So
1,000 pounds, we think different people are using it, like on the bars, for example, and the cricket bars that are on the market are about 5 to 10% cricket. And I don't know off the top of my head what each bar weighs, but so 1,000 pounds of powder would make between 100 and 200,000 pounds of bars. We know it's between 5 and 10% cricket in each bar, and then other people can do the math from there.
Okay, so you've established yourself in the cricket powder industry as the kind of B2B leader, which is a nice place to be. There's a lot of potential here, but there's also some challenges that go with that, right? Can you talk about some of the challenges that you face, and maybe other people, when it comes to cricket powder products?
We're on the supply chain, buying the crickets from farms, working out the quality and manufacturing side of things there. So those are our challenges, or those are our responsibilities. The work that we do primarily is on those. And also we're doing a lot of R&D, so we're a little bit of a unique company in that we have federal research grants, and it's run by PhDs doing research, and so they're a little bit unique, and we have those additional responsibilities. But I'm editing a book on this topic, for example, on some things that recovering academics like myself continually get involved with. Which is nice. I actually enjoy it a lot. But it's just for the pure business side. Our main challenge, I think, in a B2B, the wholesale scenario is just brand visibility, publicity, press. We get very little of that. But even though we're doing a tremendous amount of innovation, and when we think that the innovative part of an insect-based food is getting the insect into the food, which we accomplish through the ingredient manufacturing and providing the ingredient, there's a lot of innovation in your formulations and how you make the product. Don't get me wrong, but I think we have a lot of innovation that we think should be intriguing to a lot of people. But just the fact that we're not the consumer-facing company, to get our name out there is challenging. They're not directly buying products from us. The press, a lot of times they want the cricket bar. You're doing a cricket nacho. We want to cover that. We're not sexy a lot of times for that. We're manufacturers, and I ran out of my apartment on a laptop and a phone. I don't even own a factory or anything. And of course, we have proprietary processes, which makes it harder because the press wants to see the process, and we have to be very careful about that. But yeah, I would say brand awareness and just the company awareness and product awareness is the challenge for us. That we just have to do it, bootstrap it through cold calls, and it is the best we can. Now that said, we do offer 1 pound bags on our website. We're just starting that primarily because we get a lot of inquiries. Hey, can you just supply a pound, or can we get a sample of a pound? Then might come back for a larger order if we decide to use it in a restaurant in our product or something, or just people wanting to try it out, which we highly encourage. The more it benefits everybody, the more people that tries insects in their food and enjoys it or get something out of it. So we offer those on our website. I found a packager that also does order fulfillment, and otherwise before that it was me running to the post office with 1 pound samples. So yeah, we do that. We're slowly overcoming that. And we're doing a little bit of an investment in our marketing strategy to see if we can improve our marketing a bit.
Great. So, is the order fulfillment center close by in Georgia?
Nope, it's closer to our manufacturer, which is in the north. So the fulfillment, ideally, we want to not have to ship this stuff around too much because it costs more. So fulfillment and packaging is close to the manufacturer, and they're all in the Northeast right now.
Got it. Okay, so everything in the Northeast, order fulfillment is crucial, and shopping around for order fulfillment for your products is so important because, the rates on shipping, and, there's always that humbling experience where you set a price and then you found out there's going to be the pick and pack, and then it's got to fit in this box. And then what is either FedEx, UPS, or the post office going to charge? Getting that price point is always a challenge. I want to ask you a couple questions related to some other things you mentioned earlier. Making drugs, we'll say like pharmaceuticals, for lack of a better word, that may not be what you want to hear, but like drug discovery, like using insects, what types of drugs are possible?
So that's something that's been explored by some labs in the past, but actually it seems very bizarre to me, except I can imagine some rationalities behind it, that the drug discovery community, research community, pharmacognosy, sometimes they call the topic, using nature, at least natural products, drugs derived from natural products. Using insects hasn't been done so much. I think part of it, and I mean, I could go into that as a whole nother spiel if you would like me to, but it's pretty different than insects as food, because with insects as food, you want to use insects that are very benign and chemically neutral, and eat things like grains and things that we eat as well. Whereas on insects as drugs, and the same thing with any kind of plant, like if you're looking for drugs for plants from the tropics, or sea urchins, or algae from the sea, or anything else, they tend to want to look for more toxic things. So you want to look for insects that eat toxic plants and sequester toxins, or that produce toxins themselves, because those are the things that are biologically active. And so a toxin has an effect on the human body, and you're looking for something. Now you want to figure out how to engineer that so it has a beneficial effect on the human body, and deliver it in such a way that the benefits outweigh the toxins, which is the kind of paradigm in drug discovery.
Can you, just on layman's terms, like what type of things could you see being cured? Like cancer, diabetes? I'm just throwing things out there because I'm quite curious.
Sure. I think the whole world is, the oyster, as they say, as far as what the applications are. I think antimicrobials, like antibiotics from insects, could be potentially low-hanging fruit, or low-crawling fruit, as I say a lot of times. And that's because the insects are known to have antimicrobial peptides and produce they live in nature. Some things like fly larvae live in really microbially dense or rotten, nasty environments, so they obviously have to defend themselves from bacteria and pathogens. I think there's a tremendous we have a big need for the new antibiotics and things, because there's antibiotic resistance to a lot of things. I think anti-cancer is potentially, especially for the insects that have venoms and toxins that they produce. I would say probably antimicrobial, anti-cancer are kind of at the forefront. And there may be some more things, that the oils from certain species that might improve your skin or something. That there may be some potential of those things. Diabetes, actually, the silkworm is an example. There has been some research done. It's actually the mulberry leaf produces some alkaloids, sugar alkaloids analogs that help. I don't know if it's reduce hunger or affect your metabolism in such a way that there may be some promise for diabetes or just weight loss and things like this. Those are some examples that I've heard of.
Aaron, I'm really excited to speak with you today about all this. I think you're at the forefront of a really, really, I'd say in the infant stage, an industry in its infant stage here. A couple of years from now, it seems like you guys are already growing and you're going through the business stuff right now. It seems like the business part is probably the biggest challenge for you guys. I want to thank you for coming on the show today. And Aaron, where can we find you online?
So our website is allthingsbugs.com. I encourage everybody to go to the website. We have a lot of articles posted and some research and something aspects about the science of insects as food on there, and also on Facebook, All Things Bugs has a Facebook page. Just search for All Things Bugs. All Things Bugs is on Twitter. Again, search Twitter for All Things Bugs. So yeah, that's how you can find us online, and you can shoot us an email through there's a contact form on the website.
Hey guys, thanks so much for listening, and as always, if you have any questions or comments, find us online at foodstartupspodcast.com.